Okay, so today I wanted to talk about the Christian church and the Christian church's effect on the people. Well, there's a few things that I wanted to mention, and that was, the people, how we were before colonization or the Christian involvement, or should I say crusades, during and after. So before the Crusades, we had a lot of polytheistic beliefs. We had paganism, just a lot of different spiritual beliefs. And, what I can honestly say from my intake on history and the research that I have done is that we, as a people, were evolving before, to be quite honest, before the Christian church got involved in our lives, before colonization happened. It's funny how when people talk about colonization and the Crusades or the invasion of the Christian church, it's like synonymous with each other. You can't mention one without the other. It's funny. It's almost like they define each other. But I digress. To keep moving forward, I've noticed that we were much healthier people. We were more civilized. Our IQ was much higher. It was a lot of things back then, before the Crusades, before the Christian invasion, that has made our people more sophisticated, more advanced as a human society. In a nutshell, you get a lot of African spiritualities. We can even go as far as India with Hinduism. We can pick Buddhism, Shintoism. We can even go to some of the indigenous American spiritual beliefs here. They all stood for something. All of those belief systems stood for something. And there was a moral code attached. Now, I'm not saying that Christianity doesn't have a moral code attached, but look at the difference between before the Christian church infiltrated the masses. Like how far advanced we were as a society before the crusade, before the African Holocaust. You know, compare even the Greek civilizations, even the Roman civilizations. What did they look like before the Christian invasion? What was it like before the Christian church infiltrated the people and took away their indigenous beliefs? Okay, so this is before the Christian invasion. Our diets were much better, much healthier for us. Our lifespan was much greater than it is now, before the Christian invasion. And look at us now. Or we can even go back as far as 2,000 years. And then we can go back as far as 1,000 years. Look at how we've changed ever since. Ever since the Christian tentacles has, sank deep and deeper and deeper into our bodies. Look at our society. Look at the way the world is now. Do you guys really believe that we're evolving from where we were before the Christian invasion? Do you guys really believe that we're evolving as a people? Do you really believe that we are advancing? Do you believe that our IQ is going up? Do you guys really believe that? Do you guys really believe that we're becoming healthier physically, emotionally, spiritually, and our dietary? Do you really think that we're getting better? I mean, look around you. It's getting to a point now to where there's more homeless people out on the streets than there are, people who are employed. We got all these buildings that are empty rooms, empty houses, empty apartments, empty hotels, and you got gangs of people, tribes of people sleeping outside. And the Christian church is trying to convince me and people who have common sense that they're really here to help. Martin Luther King, was a part of the Christian church, and even he had his limits, which led to the Poor People's Campaign. But isn't it strange how a lot of the pastors, black pastors, before Martin Luther King passed away, all knew about the plan, about his assassination, and no one warned him. No one said anything. And I'm supposed to sit here and believe that the Christian church is supposed to help the people, supposed to save them? From what? That's the question I want to know. How is the Christian church going to save people from their addictions, their demons, their slavery, when they are responsible? They put us in shackles and in bondage. They put the drugs in our hands, and they systematically sabotaged us from reaching any form of financial success. Wrong or right, factorially. Historically, is this information accurate? Because if it's not, then what is the point of me even speaking? But seriously, take a look around. It doesn't matter if you're here in Arizona with me. It doesn't matter if you're on the other side of the country. It doesn't matter if you're on a whole other continent. Look around you. Look at every spot that has been marked by the Christian church, by the Christian religion, and look around in that entire environment and tell me if you see change. Tell me if you see real progress. Not a hideous beast with a mask of a pretty woman put in front of it. But really, do you really see real, genuine progress? Do you really see people really interested in your life? Or do you see people who are patronizing you because they feel guilty for being responsible for you being in that position? Do you see people being two-faced and fake with you, offering quote-unquote help in the guise of what? Hypocrisy, racism, harassment, defamation of character. What do you really see, people? Open your eyes. So if we're gonna have this conversation, let's talk about in the midst. Let's talk about during the Christopher Columbus days. Last time I checked, Christopher Columbus on top of Queen Elizabeth were all Christian. But they're the ones who stole gold and silver from the indigenous people of the Americas. Okay, stole their riches, stole their gold and silver, and traded it in Europe. Because gold and silver was literally the only form of commerce that the Europeans had to offer. On top of the fact that the Queen was very well aware of the effect of European colonization in the new Americas. She knew. And so did the other Christian leaders. They knew the effect of their cruel and unusual punishment towards innocent people who have done nothing and were willing to trade fairly. These people who were so-called Christians stole these indigenous people's islands, stole their homes, stole their peace of mind, their spiritual beliefs, and took credit for it. And then put a big old Christian smile on it to plaster it off as if it wasn't plagiarism and as if it was not human trafficking. And the reason why I'm making the video now is because earlier today, on my block, on the block that I was on, there was this dude outside and he was preaching about Christ. And there was another guy that came outside and he was like, yo, excuse me. Because he was trying to be nice, and which he shouldn't had to be, but whatever. We in this society where, we have to be careful how we confront people when we don't agree with them, right? It's expected to be respectful, understandable, so that a fight doesn't break out or things don't get worse. But this guy was, almost polite. Like, God, can you please leave? Because, we not trying to hear that. And the dude was like, well, right now I own the block in the name of Jesus. And the dude responded, look, I could have beat you and your homie up, the nigga that you standing with. But the reality of it is, we not trying to hear that shit. And I know it's very vulgar, but in today's world, look, we the youth, we don't give a fuck if it's vulgar. Okay? Speaking for the youth to the older generations, with all due respect, we don't give a fuck how vulgar we sound. Because this vulgarity is much needed. It's time that our current living ancestors wake up out of that mental slavery. We're not trying to hear that weak shit no more. In the words of Kanye West, we're not trying to hear it. Okay? We know it's bullshit. We see around us, a lot of us, we were born in unfortunate circumstances. Santa Claus ain't come to the hood when we went to church every Sunday. Let that sink in for the privileged people who look down on everybody and were grown in these, I don't know, wealthy Christian families. Take a second thought about that. Think about that. Let that settle. Not everybody was born into all American football white family. Okay, not all of us had that Brady Bunch environment. Not everybody got to live in Wonder Bread land. Some of us had to live in reality.